Your phone rings, and instead of answering it, your entire body tenses up like someone just asked you to defuse a bomb. You watch it ring, you let it go to voicemail, and then you immediately text them asking what they needed. And somewhere in the back of your mind, you wonder if there is something genuinely wrong with you. Here is the thing though, nothing about people who hate phone calls is actually normal. And that is exactly what makes them worth understanding. They're the ones who will drive 20 minutes across town, rather than call ahead to check if something's in stock. They're your friends who respond to every voicemail with a text that says, "Hey, saw you called. What is up?" even though you literally just told them what is up. The coworkers who schedule a video meeting with screen share just to avoid a simple phone conversation. And here is what nobody tells you. Their hatred of phone calls isn't about being antisocial or rude or bad at communication. It is actually about their brain processing voice, only communication in a completely different way than most people's brains do. Researchers who study communication patterns have found that some people rely heavily on visual cues to process spoken language. They need to see facial expressions, hand gestures, the micro movements of someone's mouth to fully understand what is being communicated. Take away those visual cues, and something shifts. The phone becomes a guessing game where half the information is missing. Picture this. You are 11 years old, and the phone rings in the kitchen, and your mom tells you to answer it. Your heart starts pounding because you have no idea who is calling or what they want or how long you'll have to talk. You pick up, and it is your aunt asking for your mom, but she wants to chat with you first about school and friends, and you are standing there frozen, performing conversation while your brain scrambles to figure out the right responses without any visual feedback. That feeling, that specific dread, it doesn't go away just because you grow up. For some people, it actually intensifies. And here is what is fascinating. Psychologists have a term for this. It is called telephonophobia, and it is far more common than anyone admits. But the people who experience it rarely use that word. They just say they prefer texting. They say calls are inefficient. They say they're just busy. One study found that over 70% of millennials experience anxiety around unexpected phone calls, and the numbers are even higher for younger generations. But let's go deeper than statistics, because what is really happening here is a collision between how we're wired and how phones actually work. Phone calls demand real-time processing with zero preparation, and for some brains, that is like being asked to juggle while running uphill. Think about what a phone call actually requires. You have to listen, process, formulate a response, and deliver it, all with no pause button. You can't reread what they said. You can't see if they're joking or serious. You can't take 3 seconds to think without creating awkward silence. And for people whose brains need that extra processing time, phone calls feel like a constant state of being slightly behind. And here is the thing that makes this complicated. Many of these people are actually excellent communicators, just not on the phone. Give them time to craft a message, and they'll write something thoughtful and precise and perfectly calibrated to the situation. Put them in person, where they can read body language, and they're charming and engaged and fully present. But stick a phone in their hand, and something just short-circuits. All that communication skill becomes suddenly inaccessible. Let's talk about what is actually happening in the nervous system, because it is not just preference, it is physiology. When the phone rings unexpectedly, some people's bodies react like a small threat has entered the environment. Heart rate increases slightly, shoulders tense up, the brain shifts into a subtle state of high alert. This isn't dramatic anxiety necessarily. It is more like the body preparing for a performance it didn't ask to give. And here is what nobody talks about: the performance aspect, because phone calls are a weird kind of performance. You are expected to sound natural and spontaneous, while simultaneously being coherent and on topic and appropriately responsive. You can't use facial expressions to buy time. You can't nod along while you think. Every pause needs to be filled with words. For people who think before they speak, who process internally before responding externally, phone calls feel like being forced to think out loud. And thinking out loud is exhausting when your natural mode is to think quietly first. There is another layer here too, and it has to do with control. People who hate phone calls often have a strong need for communication control. They want to choose when to engage, how long the conversation lasts, how much emotional energy they expend. Texting gives you that control. You can respond in 2 minutes or 2 hours. You can craft and edit. You can exit gracefully. Phone calls take that control away. You are locked in until someone decides the conversation is over, and that someone might not be you. And let's be honest about something. Phone calls also carry a higher emotional risk that texts simply don't have. You can't unsay something on a phone call. You can't delete it. You can't pretend you were joking after you've already heard the silence. The permanence of the spoken word in real time creates a kind of vulnerability that asynchronous communication simply doesn't have. And for people who already tend to overthink their social interactions, phone calls give them so much more to overthink. But here is what I want you to understand. This isn't weakness, and it isn't a character flaw. These are often people who communicate beautifully when given the medium that matches how their brain works. They write emails that people actually read. They send texts that make people feel genuinely seen. They show up in person and give you their full attention. The phone is just one channel, and some people's signals simply don't transmit well on that particular frequency. And the world is actually starting to catch up. More businesses offer chat support. More doctors do telehealth with video. More friends just text. The phone call is becoming less mandatory with each passing year. And for millions of people, that is a genuine relief. It means they can navigate the world without constantly bumping into their least compatible communication medium. So if you are someone who lets calls go to voicemail, who texts, can't talk, what is up within seconds of declining, who feels genuine dread when the phone actually rings, you are not broken. You are not rude. You are not bad at being a person in the 21st century. Your brain just has preferences about how information comes in and goes out. And that is not something to fix. That is something to understand. The people who love you will learn that calling isn't how you connect best, and they'll text instead, and you'll actually respond. And the beautiful irony is that your text conversations will probably go deeper than any phone call could, because you'll have time to think, time to choose the right words, time to say what you actually mean instead of what comes out first. And that is not worse communication. That is just your kind of communication. And it is equally valid. So the next time your phone rings and your stomach drops, don't answer it. Seriously, let it ring. Text them back. Write them an email. Suggest a video call if you need to see their face. Use the medium that actually works for you. Because connection isn't about how you communicate. It is about whether you actually do. And you will, just in your own way. If this hit home for you, please subscribe. And if you want to support these deep dives into why we're all wired differently, hit that join button to become a channel member. I would genuinely appreciate your support, and I'll see you in the next one.